Hello there, mabuhay! You're listening to Dre'Talks, the podcast edition. I'm a Filipino Gen Z youth from Mindanao, Philippines, and this platform casually talks about social, environmental, and economic topics in the Philippines. I'm Dre with an apostrophe, a development communication student, and every Wednesday, we're gonna wake up, listen, and talk about things that matter.
Perfect.
This program tackles societal issues in three colors inclined to DevCom: yellow for social issues, green for the environment, and blue for economic talks. This is certainly for my fellow youth, the young adult, and those who are young at heart. And if you're one of them, ano pang hinihintay mo? Let's start! Every Wednesday, we are going to choose one color of the three sustainable goals through the triad color wheel with colors of yellow, green, and blue in it. Of course, the color that's going to be chosen will be the main theme of the day, corresponding to a social, environmental, or economic topic. Luckily for today, in the first episode of the podcast program, the triad color wheel chose green. And green it is. That's green for nature and the environment, ladies and gentlemen. In Tagalog, luntian para sa kapaligiran. In Bisaya, lunhaw alang sa kinaiyahan. Now let's talk about the natural environment here in the Philippines. This is Dre'Talks, the podcast edition. Centuries ago, we earned the moniker of being the Pearl of the Orient Seas, not just because of being a tropical destination, but literally, the biggest pearl ever found, or should I say taken, was in the Palawan Sea, Philippines. Today, our country is hailed as one of the 18 mega biodiverse countries in the world, adding up to 2/3 of the Earth's biodiversity. Basically, we're one of Mother Earth's favorite bunso nation. But when we talk about favorite bunso, we here in the Filipino family usually have some issues with a non-human member of the family. And you kinda know this guy. Right here. Oh, poor thing. Just kidding. Sure enough, we're immensely blessed with this beauty and bounty. But of course, it carries a great responsibility with it. So here's a positive primer of our country in 3 levels: air, land, and sea. Jot some notes. First, in air, Philippines has the cleanest in Southeast Asia from a 2018 report. That's great. On land, we have 7,641 islands to date in our archipelago with rich natural resources. We're one of the world's known biodiversity hotspots with at least 700 threatened species, thus making it one of the top global conservation areas. Ang dami nun! Third, under the sea. We are part of the Coral Triangle as the center of marine biodiversity in the world. So imagine that, you're the center of someone's life. Oh, it really hurts. Joke. Oftentimes, our image in tourism is bannered with tropical hotspots like Boracay and Camiguin Island, a chill lifestyle in Siargao, and a good hospitable folk, which is kinda true. So from the looks of it, the Philippines is quite in a good stead. Or are we? That is exactly the main question right there to my podcast listeners. Are we still in a good stead in terms of the environment? For this Green Wednesday, let's tackle one of our societal problems called environmental degradation. Let's define it first. Mr. Johnson and his co-authors in a journal defines it as the deterioration of the environment through depletion of resources such as air, water, and soil, the destruction of ecosystems, habitat destruction, the extinction of wildlife, and pollution. It is defined as any change or disturbance to the environment perceived to be deleterious or undesirable. Basically, environmental degradation means losing resources due to harmful human activities. Let's take a step back and review the facts in the same levels of how I presented it here in the Philippines. So now we first start with air. We know that air quality is degraded by carbon emissions that contribute to pollution, and the Philippines rank top in the country with the cleanest air in Southeast Asia, with 11 out of 15 certain cities. For the information of our listeners, those cities are Calamba, Valenzuela, Carmona, Parañaque, Davao, Makati, Manila, Mandaluyong, Balanga, Quezon, and Las Piñas. So those are the cities in the Philippines that has safe air according to a 2018 report. However, if I may just say, majority of the cities mentioned are from Luzon, and Davao is the only city from Mindanao that was mentioned. But as a resident of Mindanao, without any comparison, any competition, or any negative connotation towards people of Luzon and Visayas, I just have to say that Mindanao is more rural, it's more provincial. Therefore, in observation, the air is more natural. And I think that's more safe. With that, I'm kinda curious as to what is the real basis for this survey, and we'll find out in the next episode. I'm gonna search about that. So the fact here is that Greenpeace released a statement that while we have clean air cities, it only represents a small fraction of the air pollution in the Philippines. While the Philippines has the lowest level of pollution in Southeast Asia, most of our cities included in the study exceeded the World Health Organization's safety limits, which means that the bearing is quite good in terms of ranking, but in terms of air safety, it's still a problem. A 2016 Harvard study estimated that 2,400 Filipinos could be killed per year due to coal plant emissions. Now, that is air degradation. Second is on land. There's so much to consider, but let's focus on three things here. First is land degradation. Because of unsustainable land practices, 70% of our country's land area has been degraded with soil erosion. It's according to Briones in 2009. This means that we are losing arable land as an agricultural and developing country. So that's quite a problem. Second is forest degradation. We're losing 47,000 hectares a year due to deforestation, and we have around 40% left wherein only 5% is protected. That's coming straight from the Forest Management Bureau of DENR. Third is biodiversity loss. The illegal wildlife trade is estimated at 1 billion a year and threatens the country's unique wildlife, of which many species are found nowhere else. So if you imagine it, we're losing land, we're losing trees, we're losing animals, and these are manifestations of depletion of resources, of natural resources. Final level is under the sea. Water degradation is ironically at rise. Our country is the third top plastic pollutant of the Pacific Ocean. On top of that, coral bleaching due to rising ocean temperatures remain a challenge to marine life, therefore posing insecurity to our aquatic resources. Geographically speaking, in the east we already have the Pacific Ocean, and in the west we also have the Coral Triangle, which means that we carry with us a very big responsibility in taking care of this marine powerhouse. And yet here we are facing water degradation in an unprecedented manner, unprecedented magnitude and pace that we Filipinos might be regretting soon in the future. Other than human activities, climate change is definitely not slowing down. Environmental degradation is at a record-breaking pace. And from the looks of it, we are not in a good stead. We are in deep trouble. This is Dre'Talks, the podcast edition. Alright, those were some huge facts and figures that we must not underscore. But with all that overwhelming and contrasting thoughts, let us take a breather. Hinga-hinga muna. Let's inhale. Exhale. Lucky for those who reside in the 11 cities with clean air. I mean, for those who are not, then well, good luck to that. So now let's move on to the next segment of this program. That's Tanong ni Juan.
Perfect.
For those who don't know who Juan is, he is the most famous guy in the Philippines. Everyone is like Juan. For those who have questions, you can send it through Twitter and mention Dre'Talks, and I'm going to read it in the next episode. My first question, is environmental degradation happening in the Philippines? Yes, in so many forms that we tend to oversee it. Second, are we in trouble? Yes, not just us, but the future generations of Filipinos as well, more importantly. Third, is the government working on it? Yes, there are programs and partnerships in local, national, and international levels. Not to mention, there are NGOs and environmental organizations at work, just like the Association of Young Environmental Journalists, which I'm part of. Shameless plug. But now it's my turn to ask you, tanong ni Dre, what are you doing to help mitigate environmental degradation in the Philippines? Isip-isip tayo, I'm gonna give you some time. So for those who are actually seeing this battle as a career, profession, or vocation, share some of your green acts to counter or slow down environmental degradation. Send your stories via Twitter at Dre'Talks or Dre_Talks so I can read it in the next Green Podcast episode. That may be next Wednesday. But seriously, to our listeners, DevCom practitioners, students, and the youth, young adults, and young at heart Filipinos, if you haven't thought about it, environmental degradation is one of the most silent yet devastating societal problems there is. Contrary to other issues, this is in a whole new level. The best step to start and sustain your action against environmental degradation is through awareness. This is the primary advocacy. Read and keep in touch with Earth's reality, especially in the Philippines. If you want to view the exact references, everything is in the description. The hashtag for today's podcast is hashtag Let the Earth Be Heard, hashtag Dre'Talks. Oops, hear that? It's the natural alarm. It has been a great Wednesday with my podcast listeners, the youth, the young adults, and the young at heart. I hope you grasped the message of today's talk. Thank you for sparing your time. This is your Gen Z average Filipino kid from Northern Mindanao, reminding you to use your voice, laugh, express, and talk about things that matter. I am Dre with an apostrophe, and this is Dre Talks, the podcast edition. See you next Wednesday!
You win. Perfect.